My name is Miguel, and I'm an insurance trainer working with major adjusters to bring you this training video about non life insurance. And for today, we're going to be talking about probably the most important document you're going to need when performing your duties as an adjuster. And that is your insurance policy, or not your insurance policy, the insurance policy of our clients. Now, the insurance policy is a form of contract that acts as the physical manifestation of the agreement between the insurance company and the client. So, as you'll note, it's a very, very important document that will contain every single aspect of the business relationship between the insurance company and the insured. And sometimes different types of policies under different types of insurances may look vastly different from one another. But don't worry, there are a few very basic parts that you can always count on to be there when you need to look for something in particular. And trust me, you will be looking at particular sections of the policy more often than the others. Now, your basic parts of the policy range from what they need to do and what information that they give regarding the agreement. The most the most immediate part you're going to notice is known as the declarations page, also known as the deck page. This particular section actually states the obvious. When we say the term declarations page, we refer to the statement of both parties involved, that would be the insured and the insurer, that would also refer to the asset being insured. Is it a house? Is it a business? Is it a car? Is it a ship? Is it a plane? Is it a piece of cargo? Is it a piece of cargo shipment that contains merchandise? Whatever it is that they're talking about, whatever it is that the client wants to insure. Now, on top of the parties involved and the asset being insured, it also declares the inclusive dates of the policy, the amount of time or the dates wherein coverage is guaranteed, coverage is provided. And usually that will go for 1 year onwards, depending on the type of policy that you're talking about. So the policy will specifically dictate that this contract is only going to be good for this point in time up to that point in time. So that's also very valuable information for you as well. Now, on top of the declarations page, you're also going to have your various definition of terms. Think of it like a glossary in most of the textbooks that you read during high school and in college. So, the definition of terms section is actually there to help the client understand some of the more technical jargon being used in the policy. As much as we'd like to use simpler terms in the policy, we have to use very specific, highly technical jargon so that we can exactly pinpoint whatever it is that we want to pinpoint. And that may not be very helpful to the client at first. In order to solve that, we include a definition of terms in the contract so that when your client finds a word, a particular term, a particular passage that they're not familiar with, they can always refer to that section to find out what it pertains to. On top of that, you get into the meat of the issue, the insuring agreement. This is where you get to the good stuff because this is the part that contains all the coverages that the insurance company will be providing for the client. Everything that the company is willing to pay for up to the stated limits for specific perils that could harm the client or the asset. Meaning to say, this is where the policy states everything that the policy can do for the clients when they'll be expecting something, when they'll be assisted, when they'll be reimbursed, when they'll be paid by the company. And that is your insuring agreement. Now, if you have a section that says everything that the client, sorry, if you have a section that says everything that the policy can do, you're also going to have a section that says everything that the policy cannot do. And that'll be your exclusions. This section contains everything that the policy is not going to cover. And as you can imagine, especially as an adjuster, this is also going to be a very, very important list that you're going to rely on when taking a look at your client. Now, just because you've got all these sections, that doesn't mean you're done yet. You also have conditions to meet. This particular section talks about specific requirements that the insurer needs the client to do in order for us to continually honoring the insuring agreement between the two of them. What do you mean when we say conditions? Well, depending on the type of insurance that you're getting, your conditions may vary from insurance policy to insurance policy. Let's say, for example, with an automobile insurance policy, one of the conditions you may see there is that everyone who drives the vehicle should be duly licensed at the DMV with proper documentation based on the type of vehicle that's being insured. Now, finally, we're going to talk about these last two parts in tandem because they basically do the same thing. These are your riders and endorsements. Now, they're separate terms though because they're used for different things, but they actually have the same function. Stay with me on this one. Both riders and endorsements make amendments or changes to the policy. The difference between riders and endorsements are the kinds of changes that you want to implement on the policy. Sometimes the changes you need to make are actually quite minor and don't need any additional payments at all, such as changing the name of the client, changing the address of the client, changing the color of the car, the color of the house, etc., etc. And then there are some changes that do require additional premiums. Buying additional coverages, increasing of premiums, asking for reinstatements, etc., etc. Now, depending on what change needs to happen, either a rider or an endorsement will be used to make these amendments visible on the contract. You're going to see them as additional documents being attached to the policy. It actually saves up a lot of time because you don't have to cancel the policy and write a new one with the new changes. You're just going to need to attach the changes to the original policy and it'll be honored just as well. Makes it a lot easier. Now, with that being said, all these particular parts of a policy create the full package. They create the full agreement. They create the full document. And that full document, while we do refer to that as a policy, as an insurance policy, sometimes you do have alternative forms for that. Sometimes insurance practitioners may refer to them as the policy form. And sometimes they're also referred to as the policy jacket. When you hear these terms being used, don't get confused. They all refer to the same thing. That will be the policy that we're talking about. So whether you say the policy form, the policy contract, the policy, or the policy jacket, they're all referring to the same thing, containing all the parts that we just talked about. And that concludes our lesson for today. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope to see you in the next video.